Welcome to our podcast today. Ask Aaron and Ask EJ. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
And it's Coach Aaron the Source. EJ, our topic today, we just kind of fell on it this morning as we were discussing before the podcast,
Right.
kind of venting a little bit. And we're going to call this one, Is Your Picker Off?
Love
And and really
it.
it kind of goes to a whole lot of things in what's happening with a lot of these high school and college athletes. And And why, in other words, why are they bouncing back? Why are we having so many kids bouncing back? Now, yes, you have the mechanics of the portal, which makes it easier for a kid to pull the ripcord and just say, "Hey, I'm gonna leave." But, what's why aren't kids sticking it out?
Right.
And every scholarship, walk on, whatever it is an opportunity. And are these kids leaving too soon? Are they not making the best of whether it's a limited or grand opportunity? And and just kind of like, what's this phenomena? And the reason why I ask this is I see more and more kids. Me and EJ work with a lot of kids, and we do a lot of work over years to get them to a school, a scholarship, or an opportunity. And then it's frustrating to find out 6 months later, a semester later, a year later, these kids have left that program and left that school. And so that's kind of why, I want to know what is going on out there. Yes, sometimes there's the mechanics that will kind of drive that. You get a new coach and
Mhm.
and maybe there's just not, some synergy there, or they drop the program, or something's happened in your family life or financially that
Right.
makes you have to move. But given all those things are out of the picture, why are so many kids dropping out? Are they not picking the right school?
Yes, you pick her up.
You know, in a rush to, just to go straight to college after high school. And maybe they're not picking they're picking the best choice, even though the school has also picked them. What's that dynamic? And I'm gonna probably talk out of out of two sides of my neck here because I do like the transfer portal as a tool to be able to use it as a development tool. So in other words, maybe you are a D2 or D3 kid coming out of high school, and and you go to a D2 or D3 school and you use that as your development springboard to maybe a bigger program or a more competitive program. But so I get that. I get that strategy, and it makes a lot of sense because a lot of kids need that extra time to grow, to catch up and compete with much older and more accomplished athletes. What's driving this? Is it because it's so easy to just bail out? Kids aren't sticking it out. Maybe
Yeah.
are they getting sold a bill of goods by the schools, and
Mhm.
and then the school's not maybe holding up their end of the bargain? I mean, it could be a lot of different things, but I think a lot of it has to do with when they're getting to these schools, you got to create value. And I don't think these kids understand
Mm.
that it's an
Right.
ongoing process. I mean, I was a walk-on athlete. So the only way I got that opportunity. I had to every year create value to earn scholarship, more and more scholarship money. And so there's
Right.
always this carrot in front of me. And I'm not sure, and maybe that's the type of system that needs to be put into place for a lot of
Mhm.
athletes. Or maybe that's what needs to be explained to them going in, because
Mhm.
it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. If you're going to be transferring, it's because again, some of those mechanical situations, you're trying to upgrade, that second
Right.
girlfriend and second wife or second boyfriend, second,
Whatever you want to say, right?
second husband.
Right.
You become again good enough where you have more marketability.
Right. Right.
I don't know. Anyway, I kind of went all over the place on
That's
that,
all
and
right.
Zoom didn't help with its reboot there. But anyway,
Uh,
let me hear your initial thoughts.
Man, I think this stuff goes through our head all the time, Aaron. And you and I kick it around almost daily about developing athletes. And I think you said something that really resonates, and I hope it resonates for the people out there listening to me because it sure did with me. Create value. Now, no one really talks about that. The player needs to go in and create value so that university they're playing at says this player is worth having here. They're going to help us. Okay? So that's one part of it that I think is so important that people don't understand. That's why college coaches pick players because they think they could help them win a conference title, a regional, and go to the World Series. They're creating a value that is different than other players they're recruiting or they have in their program. I'd like to say players that they have in their program. They're creating such a high value that there's competition. If you're a first year guy, a freshman, or even if you're in the portal, you come into that university, you're creating something that they don't have, that they need, and that's value. So I think that's the personally for me, I feel that's what's missing in this whole puzzle. People are forgetting that. What is the athlete doing to create value? We got bounce backs. Like you said, they come back after a year of choosing that college and the athlete might say, I didn't get my opportunity, I didn't get my chances. Well, wasn't the opportunity is when they gave you a locker and said you had a spot on the team? Now, what are you bringing to the table that's going to allow you to stay there and contribute and add value to this program? And I think that's where they get lost. Now, it goes back to our topic. Is your picker off? Did you choose the university correctly where you thought you could add value and you understood their roster? You understood their coaching staff. You understood the culture. You understood what the university was asking for you as a student and as an athlete. And are you able to add value because those parameters that I just explained add up for you to create that value at that university. And I think at this moment, players don't look at, as I call, the overall fit and how they add value. And it goes back to athletes we've had before. When we send a player out that you and I've trained together and we spend a lot of time with them, you and I feel they add value to that program. They're not going anywhere. But it seems like recently, over the last 5 years, we've had athletes come in and they want the quick fix. And I think this is instant gratification of society. This is a systemic issue that not only players think that and parents, but coaches are involved in this too. They want like I need value now because I need to keep my job security. So what am I going to go after? And I've said this to you before, and I'm going to give you this stat. And I mentioned this to you just recently. The average age of a college baseball player now is 22 years and 9 months. And that is so different. That's a man playing a collegiate sport now. And that person, that man, has their man strength over an 18-year-old player that's trying to add value. So when you start talking about, guys getting bounced back or not picking the right institution, you need to understand that number 22.9. That's who you're competing against. So before you start saying, hey, I want this and this is great that I post this on Instagram or Twitter that I'm going there, understand where are you really going And what value are you adding? Aaron, you could have said anything better. Create value and understand what that truly means, not just something that's just said. Like, okay, I add value because I'm a good player. That has no substance.
Right.
Give me some substance. Give me some meat and potatoes of why you add value and what are you going to do when you go there? What
Right.
kind of numbers are you going to put up? Why do they want to keep you in the starting lineup? Why are they gonna not worry about you off the field? Are you going to be a model citizen for that university as a role model to young players? So that's my 2 cents, man. It's a lot, but I think you said something earlier that people ignore, and that's adding value. And I've got a couple other things too. So go ahead
Yeah,
and
you
rip
said
on that a little
some
bit.
good things there that kind of provoked some more thought in me. And it kind of begged the question, and this is what kept going running through my head is, and I want to see if you can answer this for me. Maybe they're not, because it seems like a lot of kids are kind of, well, I hope so and so picks me. I hope so and so picks me. I hope so and so picks me. But why do you hope a particular school picks you versus is this school a right fit? In other words, are kids and parents really scouting the schools properly? And how do you scout a school?
Mm,
Outside of what you want to accomplish academically and again, we kind of look at the big things, academics,
right,
financial packages, maybe logistics in terms of region.
right,
But if we're drilling it down to just the team environment, looking at whatever UC Santa Barbara's
right,
baseball
right.
team, their organization, how do you scout an organization to know that if you're a fit or not? What are some of the things that you may want to be looking that parents and athletes may want to look? Because I don't think they look at that. I think they look at region, weather, finances, what the facilities look like,
Right.
win-loss record.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what I'm saying? Maybe
Yeah,
some
I
go
do.
deeper and they say, okay, well, what's the roster look like? How many pitchers do they have? Whatever. But
Right.
but I mean, I don't know. Are there other things that can help them really understand what's going on with the school? And the reason why I say that is because I know some of my track athletes, when I used to have track athletes and helping them find schools, is I would say look at not just the pedigree of the coach, but look at the coach's trajectory. Is he a coach that is struggling and may have one foot out? Well, why would you want to go there? Because that guy might like you, but he may not even be around for the next 4 years.
Right.
Is it a young coach who's very, very successful and on the rise and may end up moving on to the next best, better thing? Do you see what I'm saying? Uh,
Absolutely.
so, I mean, are you scouting the coach? Obviously, do they play the type of baseball that you want to play? What are the things that coach seems to value in his players and as it demonstrated on how his their team ethos is and how they're going to play the game.
Hmm.
Those are sorts of things that we look at in track and fields. Like, hey, is this coach more, distance centric, or is this
Right.
team more sprint centric, or is it more throw centric, or does he have a balance? And okay, or who are his assistant coaches? What do they look like? Who are the people you're going to be working with day to day? Even though it might be a great head coach, but you may not have much interaction with that head coach. It's going to be with this assistant coach. So, how accomplished is this assistant coach? What
Mhm.
have they done? Are they a developmental assistant coach? Or are they a coach that's had the luxury of having talent fall in their lap every year? So, those are the sorts of things that I usually will talk to athletes about in the track and film realm. What are maybe some things that come to mind for you in terms of, again, assessing the organization from a baseball standpoint?
Aaron, to answer your question, everything you just said. I mean, our athletes that we have in our program that are in our recruiting program, we're assessing everything that you just said because there needs to be a fit. The head coach is the leader or president of that team. They're not on the field grinding with those players, teaching them every position. The head coach is making sure he has a staff that can teach pitching, can teach catching, hitting development, infield, outfield development. So, you need to vet the staff, like you said. You need to understand that roster, that culture. You said up and coming coach. He's going to be there 3 or 4 years. Is this a guy that's looking to get another job somewhere because he's not happy at that university? You have to scout the whole team, players, facilities, coaching staff, head coach, athletic director. You have to do all of that. Where's the baseball program going to be 5 years from now or 4 years from now when you graduate? Is it going to be in a better place? Are there up and coming things within that program that are going to escalate it to the next level? You need to find all that out. And I think those are some great questions, some great thoughts about how you should be looking at a university,
Right.
outside the academics and the culture, the city they're in, and all that stuff you mentioned earlier. That we get that.
Yeah.
But you got to get deeper involved in that process of what that university is for you if you want to be a player there.
Right.
A lot of other things happen too, Aaron. I think people get off centered with this NIL thing
Hmm.
is outrageous because all they're seeing is this big money people. What about the average grind of a mid-major D1 program that doesn't have, $500,000 a year to give each player?
Hmm.
What people don't understand that not everybody has NIL money, but they think that, hey, I heard that this could be happening here, but it's not happening. If it's not existing there now, then assume it's never going to exist. That's how I look at the NIL situation. Stop thinking that NIL is like I can get paid and get that stuff. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. And I think student athletes need to understand that stop getting involved in that. That's a long game thing,
Yeah.
and that's game changer money,
Yeah.
meaning free agent on a marketplace like Major League Baseball, and you're going after like a Willie Adames that you
Right.
need to play shortstop for you, or you're going for Aaron Judge. I'd still a couple names out there like
Right.
a Bryce Harper or Kyle Schwarber. So basically, that's NIL. But the things you mentioned earlier about scouting the staff and understanding that, people don't get that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said something that kind of, again, gave me another thought. And first, I'll talk about the NIL. I mean, the way I feel about the NIL, you know, NIL has a lot to do with your own personable marketability.
Right.
Okay. And so I think athletes also need to take a personal assessment of, am I really a marketable individual? Am I photogenic?
Right.
Can I speak publicly?
Correct.
You know, so and that doesn't always have to do with talent. Am I a personality? All of those sorts of things. I think you need just because they have a bucket of NIL money doesn't mean you're going to get it
Right.
because you have to be marketable to the entities who are going to want you as a spokesperson.
Hmm.
So if you haven't developed those aspects of your portfolio, and what does it matter? You can be a great, there are a lot of great athletes who don't do a lot of endorsements, and there's a lot of below average athletes who are making a lot of money off of
Yeah.
endorsements.
Right. Right.
So, I think that's another thing that you have to kind of go down and look at. And just to get back to kind of some of our core stuff we were talking about, maybe also need to kind of do some detective work as to what's the social dynamic of the organization you're going to be working with. In other words, you know, is it a hardcore type of coach?
Right.
Are you used to playing for a hardcore type of coach? because now personalities seem to make up so much of the coach player dynamic versus what in our group it's like, oh hey, if you and the coach didn't get along, it was kind of like it or lump it, learn to
Right.
deal with it. Now you have all these other things that can happen with that dynamic. It behooves you to research that as best you can first. Ask other athletes, well, hey, is this coach really fair? Do they give, everyone the opportunity to say it again? Are they consistent with their word? Is this guy a screamer and a yeller? Or is this guy more of a gentle approach? Yeah, because I hear a lot about, well, I didn't get along with the coach. Well, yes, everyone has their best foot forward when you're
Right.
dating, but you can still try and I mean with social media now and again talking to other athletes and other people who've been through the programs and scouts out there, you can probably get a feel for the demeanor and approach that a coach or his staff takes to
Hmm.
see if that's the type of environment you're gonna want to be in instead of waiting till you get there and 3 months down the line and say, "Well, I don't like this guy. He's a jerk." Well,
Right.
he was a jerk probably before you got there, you know,
Right. Right.
in your opinion. So again, why don't you do your homework?
Right.
So you gotta peel off the layers and dig between below the surface and try and do as much of that as you can before you, i.e., make a commitment.
Right. I like that. I like what you said, peel off the layers, because a lot of people don't do that. They just, a college comes in, oh man, we like what you do. You look great. We like to commit with you. We like to hold hands now and let's sign a letter and you come out here and the honeymoon part gets these student athletes. Like, oh, they say all the right things. Oh, it was fun going on a recruiting trip. Oh, it was awesome. I always tell people when you have an opportunity, especially during the spring break and you're a recruitable athlete, instead of going somewhere, and this is part of your trajectory, why don't you go to a couple of those schools that you're interested in for a day or two? Watch them practice. It can be an unofficial visit. Just sit in the stands, watch them practice, watch how they interact with the coaches, sit close to the dugout, go go on campus, walk around, talk to these athletes. You could do that. It's not illegal.
Right,
And go find out who these people are. It's part of your future for 4 years.
right,
Go and invest in that. That's research, R&D, research and
yeah,
development. You've got to go do it. I think a lot of, and especially now, okay? Especially now, because we have so many student athletes coming back now and trying to find the right fit. It goes back to the right fit. You don't want to miss.
yeah,
I tell our athletes, I told Michael Iakawa this. I said, Michael, you're a Division I player, I feel, maybe 2 years from now. But what's the best opportunity for you to have a great college experience? Where do you need to go now and take advantage of that? And he chose Lewis and Clark. He did that. He found out that that was his best fit, and he's happy right now. And you know, players in the summer, his summer team players from other colleges said, "Why aren't you in the portal?" He goes, "I don't need to be in the portal." He goes, "I like where I'm at. I'm developing, and I have an opportunity to create value and add value to this program to take this program to the World Series."
right,
And I want to stay here and see it out. And we're going to get the right players. And their coach, I know their coach trying to get the right players there,
yeah,
because players like Mike saying, I'm staying, I want to win here. And
yeah,
that's what's different maybe in the athletes now than it was 10 or 15 years ago, let alone 40 years ago.
yeah,
Okay. Trying to win a World Series, the hard work you put in to get to that goal, it's like Aaron, an Olympic athlete trying to win that gold medal and the work they put in for 4, 8, 12 years. to get there. They all of a sudden say, I'm quitting. I'm going to go over here and do this because I could get it over there. No, it doesn't work. There's one Olympics. Okay.
Mhm.
This is the path you have to go. And I think a lot of athletes are afraid to take that long journey as an athlete. Being an athlete's a long journey. And I think they're into the short game.
Yeah.
And that's why we have a lot of these bounce backs.
Well, and here's a thought too, just to get back to the whole kind of scouting the team and scouting the staff. If I was at that point, I had a kid who was at that age and he was a recruitable athlete, and
Hmm.
there were a couple of schools that we were interested in, and I would go to the game, okay?
Right.
But I wouldn't watch the game. I would sit behind the dugout, and all I would do is watch and listen all the interaction of the athletes and the coaches. What's the language like? What's the demeanor like? What's the environment of that dugout? How do the coaches, all of the coaches and the athletes interact together? And that might give you an insight as to the environment you may be potentially putting your kid in. Not what's going on the field, not how many home runs were hit or whatever. Watch and listen for beratement, words of encouragement, instruction, teaching, correction, and
Right.
see if you like what you see.
Yes. Well said. I mean,
Scout the coaches, scout the staff.
that's why people's picker is off. They don't do what you
Yeah.
just said and the other things that you said earlier.
Yeah.
Well said, my friend. That's like a
Anyway,
drop. I love it.
couple of thoughts. Guys, ruminate on it, think about it. Give us your thoughts.
We sure like to hear them. I tell you that. Well, with that said, Aaron, thank you for tuning in to Ask Aaron and Ask EJ today. And please hit us back with some questions. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
And it's Coach Aaron, the source. We'll see you.